So this is a video I really didn't want to have to make. I wrote the script for this video on April 6th and I'm revising it today on April 7th. I wanted to sleep on it before I said anything I regretted and blew a gasket and made a fool of myself, more so. So, as you already know by the title of this video, it's about NAF solutions and why you should use caution before giving him your business. Now I can already hear some of you out there saying,
"But John, didn't you already make a video a few months ago about how great he is?"
and yes, you would be right. I did make a video just a few months ago talking about why NAF Solutions is the greatest thing ever and why you should totally give him your business. But I was wrong. See, the problem is Nick's business model. I'm sure some of you are probably wondering what caused me to react so radically and change my opinion so drastically in regard to NAF Solutions. A few months ago, Nick reached out to me asking if I'd like to try a new texture. I obliged, since I was a huge fan of his work. He seemed pretty urgent about it, so I sent out my frames ASAP. And then I waited, and I waited, and I waited for 3 months. And over the course of that time, nothing. I heard not a thing about the frames from Nick unless I initiated the conversation. I have quite a few reviews to be getting out, almost all of which are past due at this point, and most of which involve my Glocks that I didn't have. So I just asked Nick to do the mods I asked for, minus the new texture, and send them back to me. I plan to send them back for the new texture after this whole COVID-19 fiasco was over. In such unprecedented socioeconomic times, I wanted to have both of my 9mm full-size Glocks at home with me. My mistake for assuming the work could be done in both a correct and timely manner. So, Nick sent me back my frames. Only there's a catch to it. See, I requested that Nick remove the index markers on my Glock 19 and replace them with stabilizer cuts. He replaced the Hopkins Burst index markers with Reef Rock stabilizer flats. And not only that, but the top is all jagged. Looks like he did it in 30 seconds. I asked him to add Hopkins Burst texturing to the bottom of the trigger guard. He added Reef Rock texturing to the bottom of the trigger guard instead. Not only that, but he did a wide undercut mod that I did not ask for. Nick gave me index markers instead of stabilizer cuts on my Glock 19 when I ordered services from him the first time around. Water under the bridge. People make mistakes, man. I get it. You seem like a busy guy, and the fact of the matter is I got some awesome stippling at a reasonable price. But the problems don't end here, kiddos. He did the exact same thing on my Glock 17. I mean, it looks great and all. It just doesn't match. I also asked him to bring down the border on my Glock 17 so that it isn't specifically tailored to the Zev magwell I keep on the gun. He didn't even touch it. I don't know if this was an honest oversight or just laziness. And this kind of inaccuracy is no way for anyone to run a business. I would honestly be willing to overlook all of this and just send the frames back to him to be made right if he weren't so rude about it.
Fool me once, I'm mad. Fool me twice, how could you? Fool me 3 times, you're officially that guy, okay? You know the one.
You'd think Nick would care about his public perception, considering he's a businessman. This being said, I have screenshots of Nick telling me to use my brain and chill. All of this in mind, Nick has released to me that he's been going through some pretty rough stuff in his personal life. So, I'm going to take a moment to ask you to pray for him, his family, and their well-being. And if you do proceed to send Nick your frame during this time, I highly recommend that you communicate with him as much as possible to avoid any misunderstandings. Another thing that sort of frustrated me is that he always said for whatever reason that I take priority. Why? Because I made a video about the 2.5 times that you got my order right? Don't tell me I take priority and then turn around and talk about how you're only one man. I get it. Custom work takes time, but don't blow smoke up my butt and pretend like I take priority when I don't. I'd be willing to bet that people who sent their frames to Nick after I did received them before I did. And I'd be willing to bet Nick actually paid attention to the order forms on those too. Because I assume he hadn't developed the whole buddy-buddy anything goes sort of relationship with any of those customers. It's only because he and I have talked regularly that he's gotten into this mindset. That's no way to run a business. That's using mutual respect as an excuse to do a half-hearted job. Some could argue that I'm just being an impatient jerk. After all, he wasn't going to charge me for this most recent work he did. Well, please allow me to explain my plight, you useless plebeian. Free work doesn't mean wrong work. Anyone can mess up my Glocks for free. Heck, I'd have messed them up myself if I knew I were going to have to wait 3 months for this degree of inconsistency. Unfortunately, I don't have copies of my order forms to back up my claims, because I thought I could trust Nick to actually follow instructions. Spoiler alert, I was wrong. About the same time Nick reached out to me about the new texture, I also purchased a Glock 19 frame from him. It's a basic Gen 3 Glock 19 frame, and I paid up front to have it stippled. So, I waited a while for Nick to do the work and send me my frame. And I kept waiting, and waiting, and waiting, and finally, after pretending like Nick was doing the work, He sent me the frame. Only get this. He sent it to my FFL's old house. The house he hasn't lived in over a decade, mind you. And that in mind too, Nick would have had to go out of his way to send the frame to the old house, considering I gave him the most up-to-date FFL information not once, but twice. By this time I was getting kinda antsy since I have some reviews to be getting out. So that's when I asked him to do the new mods on my old frames, minus the new texture, and send them back to me. I don't think the way I asked was rude by any means, but Nick sure made it a point to be snippy with me about it. Don't get mad at me, dude. You're the one who got the info wrong. My FFL, God bless him, caught the error and sent Nick the correct address for the third time. But somehow Nick still managed to put the incorrect address on the package, and thus it was lost in the mail for some time. Ironically enough, it was found and recovered yesterday. The only problem with this Glock is that the incorrect mods were done to it. And when I brought it to Nick's attention, he called me a rude child and told me to grow up. Nick, I am a grown man. Regardless, I wouldn't think age would be a factor of consideration, considering I am a repeat customer who has given you my hard-earned money in exchange for services. Just because I expect the order that I paid money for to be done right does not make me entitled, nor does it make me a child. Nick also told me that he included stabilizer flats on my Reef Rock Glock 19 because he no longer offers stabilizer cuts, and because he just wanted me to be up to date. Well, Nick, I hate to burst your bubble, but I'm pretty sure you offered stabilizer cuts 3 months ago when I bought the gun. Maybe reach out to me about these sort of things instead of hoping for the best and treating me like an idiot. Or just send me the gun that I bought within your lead times instead of 3 months later when you no longer offer the mods I asked for. I also reached out to Nick about the problems I encountered yesterday, fully willing to overlook it and allow him to make it right. I'd have even paid for shipping and all that jazz. But Nick was rude to me about it. And not only that, but he blocked me. So I call you on the carpet about your errors, and instead of maintaining a good business model and making it right, you insult me and block me? You're doing a bang-up job of representing your company, Nick. Bravo. You'd think Nick would actually care about his handiwork and having his logo on this. That little snake right there? That's from NAF Solutions. And it's not like Nick thinks it won't be seen either. I'm not famous by any means, but I'd say I have a pretty substantial presence on YouTube and Instagram. If I want my voice to be heard about an issue such as this, you'd better believe my voice is going to be heard. I mean, what did you expect? Oh yeah, this mismatch of textures looks fantastic. It totally looks like it matches. I'm gonna be real proud to show this one off. No, Nick. Just no. In conclusion, I really hate that I've had to devote time to making this video, but I really feel as though Nick hasn't left me with much of an option. I hope this video serves as an eye-opener for him and other companies on how to not run a professional business. Nick does fantastic work when he actually pays attention. So if you choose to ignore my advice and go ahead and order services from NAF Solutions, I suggest that you maybe ask him to send you a picture of your gun before he sends it back to you, just as a way to confirm that he was actually looking at the order form when he took the frame that you paid for with your hard-earned money and jams a soldering iron into it. And as the icing on the inconsistent cake, he had the audacity to send me 4 business cards with my jacked up Glock frames. Like, what am I gonna do with these frickin' things? Burn them to keep my family warm while I fight off a horde of Corona zombies with my 2 messed up Glocks? I'm very picky about the companies I do business with, and I don't do business with people who allow their ego to dictate their every action and every word that comes out of their mouth. Nick, you have requested that I take my business elsewhere, and to that I say, gladly.
Lies, 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 yeah. Lies, 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 yeah. Lies, 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 yeah. Lies, 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 yeah. Do I have to catch you out to know what's on your mind? Well, Cleopatra died for Egypt. What a waste of time. White ones and red ones, some you can't